Hello everyone, welcome back, and tomorrow is a very important day for Barcelona, and I'm really excited to talk about everything because I'm sure a lot of Barcelona fans are excited and nervous about this game tomorrow against Napoli in the round of 16 of the Champions League. And of course, it's been a very long time since Barcelona has been in this stage of the competition, so I just wanted to talk about who I think Barcelona will line up with tomorrow and who I would actually like Barcelona to start in this game tomorrow against Napoli. It does seem like since Napoli has appointed their new coach, they have been in a little bit better run of form, but I still think Barcelona, in their last game together, in the first leg, Barcelona played very well. I think they could have easily went and won that game, but of course it didn't work out because Barcelona, I just don't think, had enough quality in the attacking third. But I still think Barcelona, they did control and dominate large parts of that game, although they did have Frenkie de Jong and Pedri in that game. And obviously those are two huge misses, but I think the best teams in the world, they don't focus on the players that they're missing. They focus on the players that they still have in their team. And there are players like Gundogan, Lewandowski, Lamine Yamal. There are a lot of players with enough quality to go change the game for Barcelona tomorrow. So I still think Barcelona has more than enough quality to get through to the quarterfinals. And last time Barcelona played Napoli, there really weren't many surprises in the starting lineup. You had a feeling that Xavi was going to play with four midfielders because typically in these bigger games, he does play it safer. And sometimes it does work out for Barcelona, and I wasn't against him playing with four midfielders in that game. But obviously with Frenkie de Jong and Pedri being out injured, that changes the entire structure of Barcelona. And we saw in that game against Mallorca that Xavi did try something different. He played with really four attackers, which I think is the first time he's done that this season. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but he played with Christensen as a defensive midfielder and Gundogan as the other midfielder, and then Raphinha, who never really plays as an attacking midfielder, was played in that role. And before he got injured, I think he was doing pretty well there. Of course, he didn't look 100% comfortable, but I'm not really surprised by that because he's not really played there at all this season. And there are a couple different ways that Barcelona could line up tomorrow. The starting lineup is in the air, but I think for Xavi, I hope that he goes for it. I hope that he takes a risk and doesn't play it too safe this game, because if he goes in there with four midfielders and two of them being Sergio Roberto and Fermin Lopez, I think Barcelona might struggle to score a goal in that game. So I do hope that he plays with three attackers, and with the performance that Vitor Roque had, even being played out of position as a left winger, it's a really interesting thought that he might deserve a start tomorrow. And for Xavi, this might be his last Champions League game ever for Barcelona, and it's only the second one in the round of 16 that he's been able to coach for Barcelona. And so I hope he doesn't play it too safe. I hope he does take a risk and try and entertain and win the game and play the style that he wants to play. And I think a lot of Barcelona fans are pretty worried going into the round of 16 of the Champions League, given all the failures that Barcelona have had in the past couple seasons in this specific competition. But I think Barcelona, they have a good crop of players this year, and players like Gundogan and Lewandowski, that's really going to help Barcelona in a game like this. And for all the control and the domination and the possession and the chances that Barcelona created in the first leg, it doesn't mean anything now because tomorrow is a completely new game, and Barcelona, they have to be playing at 100% to go through to the quarterfinals. And I would say that before most games, I can guess who's going to be starting for Barcelona, but tomorrow, I think it is up in the air because there are a lot of different ways that Xavi can play this game, but I'm going to try and going through each position and say who I think should start for Barcelona tomorrow. So in goal, of course, there are no surprises, is going to be Ter Stegen, and he did have a press conference, and he said some pretty confident things, and I'm glad to see that because there are some times in the Champions League where I feel like he's a little bit worried, he's a little bit rattled. I hope that's not the case tomorrow, and I hope that he's very confident because Barcelona will need him at the back and at his best tomorrow. And then at right back, of course, there's going to be no surprises. Koundé is going to be starting in that position tomorrow, and I think a lot of people were worried about that matchup between Kvaratskhelia and Koundé in the first leg against Napoli. I think Koundé did really well in that regard. I think he completely shut down anything Kvaratskhelia could bring into the game, other than a few good touches from Kvaratskhelia. But if that's all you're allowing him, I think that's great. That's great defending, and I think Koundé in the past couple weeks, he's really stepped up for Barcelona. And then, of course, at left back, João Cancelo is going to be starting, and I hope he has a very influential game tomorrow because I do think he is one of Barcelona's most creative players, and a lot of attacking threat, it does come from his side, especially when Barcelona don't play with the left wing, and so I hope he has a great game tomorrow. Sometimes he's a little bit passive, and maybe he's wasteful with the opportunities that he has, but again, he creates something out of nothing, and a lot of times he is one of Barcelona's best attacking players, so I hope he has a really good game tomorrow. And then to choose two center backs, it's going to be very interesting for Xavi. I think it's difficult to decide because obviously Araujo is a guaranteed start. He's going to be one of the center backs, but then is it going to be Cubarsi or is it going to be Inigo Martinez? Obviously, in the first leg against Napoli, he chose Inigo Martinez, who did have a good game other than when Osimhen turned him and then scored. Obviously, that's a pretty decisive moment. And Cubarsi in the past couple weeks, he's been such a great defender for Barcelona, and he might deserve a start tomorrow. So it's a really difficult question. And that one little slip that Inigo Martinez had in the first leg, obviously it did cost Barcelona a goal, but I think that was more Osimhen using his body very well and turning Inigo Martinez. You know, some center backs would definitely have done better there, but Inigo Martinez overall, he had a very positive game against Napoli, but it's really difficult to sit Cubarsi, even though he's just 17 years old, and maybe he would struggle against Osimhen's physicality, But Cubarsi in the past couple weeks, he's been such a staple in Barcelona's defense. It would be really hard to sit him in this game. And Cubarsi, in that game against Mallorca, he was incredible. He was one of the main reasons why Barcelona were able to keep a clean sheet. He had so many last-ditch tackles. He did very well against a physical striker like Roque, I think that's how you pronounce it, in that game against Mallorca. That was such an impressive performance, and so I do think he's ready for this game against Napoli if Xavi decides to count on him. And a lot of Barcelona fans are maybe worried that if Cubarsi does start in this game against Napoli, Osimhen would probably target him, and I wouldn't blame Osimhen at all because it's a 17-year-old instead of going up against Araujo. And Araujo, in terms of physicality, no one's really getting past him, so Osimhen, I think he would match up against Cubarsi, and is Cubarsi ready for that? Obviously, Roque, he did very well, but Roque and Osimhen, they are very different players. Osimhen is on another level completely. And given the fact that Barcelona haven't been at this stage in the competition in a couple years, and the fact that Cubarsi is 17 years old, is it fair to throw him into this game against one of the best strikers in the world? And some people will maybe say Lamine Yamal and Cubarsi are the same age, but Lamine Yamal, he has a lot more room for error. He's an attacker. He can lose the ball. He can make a mistake. Cubarsi, in this game, it's going to be very difficult for him to be 100% against one of the best strikers in the world. And having said all that, there are a lot of pros and cons between starting Cubarsi and Inigo Martinez, and I really would not mind either one of them starting, but you have to write one of their names down on the team sheet. You can't choose both of them. And for me, if I had to choose one of them, I think Cubarsi would be able to start in this game. Of course, it seems like a big ask for him to lock up Osimhen. I just think he has been Barcelona's best center back in the past couple weeks, and in the most important game for Barcelona this season, I would want him to be starting. And especially with Frenkie de Jong and Pedri both being out for this game, Barcelona might not have as much of the ball. And so in possession, you would want your best center back on the ball. And Cubarsi, he already is Barcelona's best center back in possession. So, that's another aspect of it. But at the same time, maybe Barcelona don't have enough possession that Osimhen is going to get a lot more opportunities in this game. And I think Inigo Martinez, defensively, I think he would be better in that matchup against Osimhen. But again, you have to choose one of them because it's going to be Araujo and either Cubarsi or Inigo Martinez. I would go for Cubarsi, even though I would say it's 51-49. Like Cubarsi, I'd maybe be a little bit more in favor of, but if Inigo Martinez starts, I'm completely fine with that as well, and I would understand the pros of him starting instead of Cubarsi. And that is a big question for Xavi, but then moving into the midfield, of course, it's going to be Christensen and Gundogan starting, but then who else is going to be alongside him? Obviously, it would be Pedri and Frenkie de Jong, but with them being out injured, is it going to be Sergio Roberto? Is it going to be Fermin Lopez? Or is he going to play with another attacker like Raphinha in that position instead? In that third midfielder, I think it depends a lot on if Raphinha is able to start this game because he was obviously taken out of that game against Mallorca, but I saw the report that it was just a precaution and that he would be fit for this game against Napoli. Obviously, the team report hasn't came out yet, so I don't know if he's in the squad, but if he is, I could see him starting in that right attacking mid role again. And I would really like to see Xavi go for it, and I think by going for it, by risking it, I think Raphinha would be the third midfielder. And it does give you more in attack. Maybe you lose a bit of possession and safety instead of someone like Sergio Roberto, but I think Raphinha, he does deserve a start, but he's not starting in front of Lamine Yamal. So to get them both on the field together, I think that might be the best bet for Barcelona. But obviously, if Raphinha is not 100% fit to start this game, that is going to change up the plans for Xavi, and I think it would be either Sergio Roberto or Fermin Lopez starting in this game. For me, I would really like to see Raphinha starting as a right attacking midfielder, and then Gundogan and Christensen alongside him. And Raphinha has been criticized a little bit this season by Barcelona fans, but I think you want him starting in this game. You want him starting in the most important game for Barcelona this season, and I think the only way that he would be starting in this game is if he is a right attacking midfielder. He is not going to be starting in front of Lamine Yamal, and if he's on the left, fire Xavi immediately. I don't think Xavi is going to play him on the left. I think it would be as a right attacking midfielder. And maybe it didn't work out 100% in that game against Mallorca because it did take Lamine Yamal scoring in the 70th minute. What a beautiful goal, by the way, for Barcelona to win the game. But still, I think in this game, I would really like to see Raphinha on the field. And maybe some people would say that's not the right idea. You need another midfielder, a true midfielder on the field. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if Sergio Roberto does start this game, but Sergio Roberto starting in the midfield in a round of 16 game of the Champions League for Barcelona in 2024, I would not believe it, but again, I really wouldn't be surprised given the state that Barcelona are in right now. So the best case scenario for me, I think, would be Christensen as a defensive midfielder, Gundogan on the left, and Raphinha on the right. And maybe that's risking it a little bit, but it's possibly Xavi's last game in the Champions League. I hope he does risk it. I hope he does take a chance, and I think Raphinha as a right attacking midfielder, if he is fit to start this game, it might be the best bet for Barcelona. And of course, on the right, it is going to be Lamine Yamal. He has been Barcelona's best player this season, and if Barcelona do want to score a goal, if they want to create chances, a lot of it is going to come through him. And again, he's just so good. I don't want to talk about him too much because, I'm just going to let everything that he does on the field explain how good he is as a player. And he's going to be very important if Barcelona want to progress tomorrow. And then up top, of course, Lewandowski is going to be starting this game. And I've had my complaints about him. And I think earlier this season, he was really bad. I think the whole team was really bad, but he was especially not good. But I think in the past couple of weeks, he has really stepped up for Barcelona, and he scored some crucial goals. And in that game against Napoli, he looks good. He did score that goal, and that was great from him. And so, of course, 100% he will be starting tomorrow. And then on the left, I think it's the hardest for me to predict because I think Xavi can go a couple different ways with this position. Either he can start João Felix and hope that he has a good game. Hopefully he shows up because there's sometimes when he's a passenger in a game, but there are also moments of brilliance from him. The other direction would be either Sergio Roberto and Fermin Lopez. So basically would be playing with 4 midfielders, but Raphinha would be the right attacking midfielder. Or he could start Vitor Roque in that position because Vitor Roque, I really think he has deserved more minutes. I think every single time he's came on, even though some Barcelona fans were complaining about his touches, I still think he's made a positive impact with the energy that he offers. Obviously, he started a game. He started as a left winger, and he didn't have the best performance. And his left wing is not his preferred position. But I think that game against Mallorca, obviously it was against tired legs, and Barcelona were already winning. He did have a really good performance in that position. I think Xavi has some mixed feelings around João Felix, and rightfully so, because I think there are a lot of times he's just a passenger in a game. He's not able to make the impact that you want him to. But there are moments of brilliance. There are sparks where he just looks incredible. He just made such a great pass, or he had a great run, finished off a great goal for Barcelona, and he has scored some crucial goals for Barcelona this season. I, again, just don't think he's a guaranteed starter with how inconsistent he has been this season. So I really wouldn't be against João Felix starting for Barcelona tomorrow because when he's awake, when he's there, when he's showing 100% effort, he can be the decisive player for Barcelona. And in a big game like this, with his future so uncertain, I think he really would show up. So I would understand Xavi starting him, but really I think Vitor Roque, I would like to see him start. I think it's more likely that João Felix will be starting tomorrow. And I hope that tomorrow Xavi does play with at least 3 attackers, because if he goes into it with a 4-4-2 without Frenkie de Jong and Pedri, and those 4 midfielders, 2 of them are Sergio Roberto and Fermin Lopez, no offense to those players, I just think you can fit Raphinha, you can fit Vitor Roque, you can fit João Felix into that team, and I think Barcelona's attack, it looks a lot more dynamic, it looks more threatening against Napoli. And you do not want to make it easy for the other team. I think you want runners in behind. That's why Vitor Roque is so important for Barcelona, and maybe João Felix, he doesn't provide that, but I still think he does provide a spark that someone like Sergio Roberto or Fermin Lopez, they can't provide if they are the 4th midfielder instead of a left winger. And I think it would be very ambitious if Xavi does start Vitor Roque tomorrow, and I think he's only gotten 1 start for Barcelona since he's signed, so to start him in the most important game for Barcelona this season, that would be ambitious, I would say, from Xavi. I don't think that he's probably going to do that. I think it's more likely that we'll see Vitor Roque on later in the game, although I do think he deserves a start. The system, I don't know if it's going to work with Vitor Roque as a left wing, even though in that game against Mallorca, he did very well. But could you sacrifice a little bit of possession? Could you sacrifice a little bit of balance in the midfield without playing 4 midfielders and starting Vitor Roque up top to give yourself an outlet, to give yourself a runner in behind? I think that Barcelona, it maybe could benefit them. I think for me, it would be much more exciting if we saw Vitor Roque starting. But if it's João Felix, Lewandowski, and Lamine Yamal, I'm okay with that. I just really don't want to see a 4-4-2 with Lewandowski and Lamine Yamal up top. And with Frenkie de Jong and Pedri on the field, I understand Xavi playing with 4 midfielders, but now that those 2 midfielders got hurt, you have to adapt. Maybe add another attacker to the team, because when you're adding Sergio Roberto and Fermin Lopez, those 2 players, no offense to them, they cannot fill the gaps that Frenkie de Jong and Pedri left. So I think you have to change up the system. You have to add another attacker to the team. And you do not want to make it easy for Napoli's defense. And I think playing with 4 midfielders tomorrow, I think it would make it pretty easy for Napoli, even though Barcelona would have a lot of the ball. I just think I would rather have Barcelona having a man in behind, having an outlet to get away from the press. And I think someone like Vitor Roque, he would provide that, even though I think it's more likely that João Felix would be starting on the left. And of course, if there's no goal at 0-0, then Vitor Roque, I think he would come on, and who knows, maybe Barcelona go into extra time. And Vitor Roque, of course, against tired legs, that would be great. So maybe it is not a bad idea for Xavi to save him until later into the game, but you don't want to wait too long. You don't want to make it easy for the other team. And with 4 midfielders, I think Napoli, they might find it pretty easy to defend against Barcelona. So overall, going into tomorrow, I'm really excited for this game. I'm not as much nervous because I know that Barcelona has more than enough quality to get a result in this game. And I think players like Gundogan, they will be huge in this game. I think Gundogan, he might be the most important player for Barcelona, other than Lamine Yamal. And I think one of those two players, they can really make the difference for Barcelona tomorrow. And sometimes in games like this, it's a player that you don't even expect. And of course, with this game potentially going into overtime, if no team scores, then yeah, there's going to be some players, there's going to be some substitutes that have the chance to impact the game for either team. And for Barcelona, I think they have a lot of talent on the bench, no matter who Xavi starts tomorrow. And I hope Barcelona has a great performance tomorrow. Visca Barca, and see you all tomorrow.